Yep, Clint sure likes taking his girlfriends on walks, and that's why he's not here. Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings. My name's Luke Radowski here of the best politicalshow.com, and we are going to be live here for the next 2 hours discussing all the latest and craziest news developing right now, as of course there never is a shortage of things to talk about. As now officially the hurricane is a category 3, but now there's a lot of specific tornadoes all over southern Florida that are affecting the region. There's also a lot of people using this opportunity for clout chasing, fundraising, while other politicians are trying to milk this as much as they can. Trump also is claiming today that he almost got rid of all nuclear weapons in the world, as he's also suggesting foreign governments being responsible for his attempted assassination, as a professor in the University of Kansas just said some absolute wild and crazy stuff that is getting a lot of scrutiny online, and rightfully so. We're going to be discussing that for the next 2 hours, all here on this independent media broadcast. We would ask you guys to please share this video with your friends and family members. The YouTube algorithm doesn't really like us. If you guys like us and you want us to survive, share this video, share the link, thebestpoliticalshow.com, with your friends, with your family members, because that's the only real way that this message gets out there to the general public. And it wouldn't if it wasn't for you, and we try to give back as much as we can to you for your participation. And one way we do that is, of course, through LukeUnfiltered.com, a website that allows people to actually call in to the show and actually be a part of it. You could be a part of today's show just by simply signing up to LukeUnfiltered.com. You get access to a Telegram channel, and then I am in that Telegram channel right now. We don't have a caller yet. You could be that caller. First-time callers also get free supplements from wearechange.shop, and we are going to be doing everything in our power to read any and all super chats during this conversation. As we promised you, we are going to be going live no matter what the consequences, no matter what the weather down here in southern Florida, and so far it's not that bad. A lot of delays, a lot of people late, a lot of people, of course, all over the place this week has been just an absolute nightmare. Booking people and making sure that everyone was on schedule, but we made it happen, and we're very happy to have Pastor Steve here with us. Pastor Steve, thank you so much for being here. For the people who don't know you, who are you, and how would you introduce yourself?
Well, I'm a pastor, as you said. I've been pastoring.
If you can't, just bring up the mic and then just speak as close to it as you can, please.
All right. Hello there.
We're falling apart here.
Not yet. Not yet. It's all okay. Well, I'm Pastor Steve. I'm from Australia, and we moved here to Florida to be part of the Great Awakening. And I'm a YouTuber, so we've just been watching you, actually, covering the news. So it's a real honor to be here with you. And what else? I'm an author. We just released a book that shot up to #1 for about a week. I think we dropped down to maybe #4 right now, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of things to talk about, as of course Stephanie made the comment right before the show went live that it's good that we have a pastor here, since a lot of people need prayers more than ever.
That's true.
We're living in absolutely crazy times. You're also friends with General Flynn. You were also on the Alex Jones show. You were a part of a show where someone kind of prophesized the attempted assassination of Donald Trump. We'll talk about all of that. So we're very happy to have you. Thank you so much for coming here. Also, my very religious friend, Matthew Lepasic, is here, the OG We Are Change member that, of course, is responsible for a lot of the crazy confrontations that you saw here almost 15, 20 years ago. Matt, who are you? How would you introduce yourself?
Software engineer. I am a lifelong activist who tries to, go with his passions at the moment. 7 years ago, I met the Lord Jesus Christ after living a very long, debaucherous, sinful existence. And since then, I am completely obsessed with Jesus, and I'm happy to be here with Pastor Steve.
Awesome. You're working on, can you tell people what you're working on? You're working on some crazy voting device.
Well, I'm always working on something new, but what we've done is we've created software which utilizes 360-degree cameras that we're going to be moving into all the swing states, 5 counties in every swing state over the next 4 weeks, and basically put that in the middle of the sidewalk with instructions that if you want to vote, if you're voting for Trump, to raise your hand as a fist, and if you're voting for Kamala, to raise your hand as an open palm, and it actually registers the votes as they're walking by. So we've just been creating fun fun little pre-survey equipment, and also in preparation for doing exit polling.
Yeah, there should be.
It's really crazy. I'll show you some videos.
There's a lot of kind of hand signs that could be absolutely disastrous that I'm automatically thinking about that you shouldn't do. But we'll get into that as, of course, Clintina is missing. We're looking for a new co-host. You want to be a co-host? Let me know, especially if you're in the Miami area. So, yeah, that's our current situation. Steph's also here.
Hey, everyone. This is Steph. We Are Change. Super excited to hear more about what Matt was talking about. I wonder what other hand signs Luke was talking about. You can find me on X at StephWRC, and I'm super excited to push these buttons.
You got to do the red salute for Kamala. And you have to do the right wing 1930s one. I won't get into it, but I'm already.
We have to go with the hand signs that Google already had modeled for me because we have to use frameworks as already ready.
Well, let's get into it. There's a lot of news breaking today, specifically when it comes to Hurricane Milton, that officially now is a Category 3. So it looks like the storm is not as strong as a lot of people previously thought it would be. But there's also other problems being reported in Florida, as now there are numerous damaging tornadoes that are on the ground all throughout the Florida state, as at least 53 different tornado warnings were issued to the people all over southern Florida, including the very region that we are in right now. So the weather is acting up just a little bit. Of course, we got crazy video footage like this that is now circulating the internet as we are speaking. And again, lots of crazy videos like this just showing how Mother Nature doesn't play around, as I think a lot of people are left humbled and really understanding just how crazy, just how insane, just how you got to take everything for granted that you have, because it could be literally swept away at any moment, at any time. Now, of course, a lot of people have tried to politicize these kind of larger weather patterns, but overall, Pastor Steve, you came from the west coast of Florida. How are your travels? What did you see, and what are you making of these kind of crazy events unfolding right now in Florida?
Well, I believe I was sent here just to witness this craziness. I mean, to me, it's the beginning of judgment for the United States. I know that's a harsh, strong word, but there's really nothing else I can say. It's called birth pangs. Birth pangs means that they come more frequently. They'll come more, with greater intensity. But, I had great neighbors. They really tried to help take care of each other. That's the goodness of America, the decency of people. I had a neighbor come that I don't even know the name of, and he had a crane. And he brought his crane to put our metal shutters on the second floor, because it's a bit dangerous to do that. So we're very grateful. And then we drove down here. A trip that should have taken 3 hours probably took 6 hours. And
you were supposed to be on the show yesterday. We were like waiting for you to come in, and then the traffic was just absolutely too crazy.
It was almost midnight by the time we got here. I mean, there were places where it was crawling, and I'd never really seen anything like it other than in an apocalyptic movie, where usually it is Florida. People are trying to get out of Florida, and it's exactly like that. It's just but people are civil, because there was one lane open. And I was just thinking, are people just going to barge in and just take it? But yeah, everyone was very orderly. The cops were everywhere. So Florida is in a state of readiness. I think it's one of the prepper states. And what we're seeing is to help people realize this is going to come to a town or a state near you, like North Carolina saw. They weren't even supposed to get that. And it's crazy times. But, it's the grace of God that we can prepare. It's the grace of God we can even make it down here in 6 hours.
Well, we're very happy to have you here, because we were even cutting it short, even just today with all the craziness unfolding everywhere. But Matt also just finally came back to the great state of Florida. Perfect timing, Matt.
Yeah, I drove in just in time.
Perfect. So the latest that we have here is, again, Milton downgraded to Category 3. But a lot of people are still saying that the worst is yet to come, as the storm is officially set to hit later on tonight at around midnight, and all throughout the morning. There's a lot of damage that is still expected to be had here. We, of course, are hunkering down here in South Florida. We prepared ourselves. We were kind of already prepared. We were just like, let's double prepare. Let's triple prepare. And, the guest that we have here from yourself also helped us walk around, make sure that there's not going to be any kind of flying debris here in case of tornadoes or other kind of crazy things that are unfolding here.
And Pastor Steve and I are also prepared to do exorcisms if necessary.
If necessary, why not?
Okay. All right. I don't know who we're going to be doing that to, but
Clentina.
yeah, we might need one for Clentina wherever his
Ian's
heart
not
is.
here, is he?
No,
We could get started a little
No,
early.
Ian Crossland, who believes he could control the weather, is not here. I've been making a
I love
plea.
Ian.
I've been making a plea for Ian Crossland to specifically come down here. But sadly, a lot of people are taking this kind of natural, or as some people would believe, maybe man-made influenced disaster to kind of clout chase, as there's a kick streamer currently right now attempting to survive Hurricane Milton in an air mattress for a bid to win a prize, a contest. There's also another individual that people are calling Lieutenant Dan that has allegedly also raised about $20,000 for himself. There's other people coming out saying that he has a criminal record, he has a criminal past here. A lot of people are saying that this guy is the spirit of American Renaissance. Other people are saying he's going to win a Darwin Award here. But what do you make of these individuals kind of using this scenario situation, putting their safety on the line and saying, hey, look at me, Internet? This kind of does highlight, I think, what some people would say is the potential kind of idiocracy of our modern day society. As to me, it's kind of like a car crash that you kind of naturally look at, but you don't really want to look at when you're on the road. What do you think of this kind of social media phenomenon that's now taking grip of all of our social media? Is this smart? Is this good? Is this entrepreneurial? What do you guys think? Not smart? Do you guys support it? Do you guys not support it?
No, absolutely not. Stay safe. But yeah, I don't know. I never wanted to be a media personality. It just happened. So I don't know why people do things like that.
I think everybody's full of so much fear of missing out, and they want to be the center of attention at all times. The scripture says that, in the end times, that people really are going to have to keep track of what their motives are. And most people are seeking vainglory and to be seen. And I fall victim to it all the time. That's why I know it's happening to everybody else, because the same thing's happening to me.
That's well put.
Yeah, it's interesting because the conversation definitely got started with some people saying that the government should get involved here and take and arrest these people and put them away. Other people are saying, well, this is America. We have freedom. We have freedom of expression for these individuals to do this. And it's a curious kind of conversation that has started. For me, personally, if I'm going to be kind of giving my 2 cents on the matter of people trying to kind of put themselves in the midst of all of this, my 2 cents are they should at least sign a waiver saying that emergency health and services are going to be exempt for them, so they don't have to risk their lives with individuals who clearly are risking their lives to clout chase for these kind of dramatic, crazy situations that are captivating the internet, but might not be the best thing for, of course, that individual. The sad thing is, the more people that pay attention to it, the more people are willing to do it. Us just talking about this is probably going to spur on some people to be inclined to do this themselves. But that's this kind of day and age of social media that we're all living in that I think is kind of important to contextualize and to point out during these specific times.
It's very wise, yeah, because you don't want to waste all the resources of the, emergency and ambulance and police. But I don't think they're going to sign that.
Yes. There was multiple government agencies already reaching out to Lieutenant Dan, as people call him, online, saying, please don't be on a boat during this major hurricane here. It looks like it, as of course a lot of people have offered him a hotel room, and he's like, yeah, I'm just going to live stream it and ride it out.
Wow.
As we also have live streams right now from, of course, the west coast of Florida that are live right now, highlighting what looks like already some flooding in the region. But overall, this is just the beginning of a lot of craziness to come. Now, even though there's particular clout chasers like these people, I think the biggest clout chasers that deserve to be shamed are politicians like this Canadian MP that came out and said that climate emergencies are, quote, not gender neutral. You heard that correctly. Here's a Canadian politician with her perspective on the issue.
I hope you'll forgive me if I get emotional. Climate emergencies are not gender neutral. The degradation of ecosystems disproportionately impacts women and girls. And I am wildly emotional. This is...
You don't say. As of course, sadly, a lot of people are using the fact that there's this hurricane in order to push larger kind of notions about people being bad for releasing carbon. That's the type of conversation that we're having now. And it's a very convenient one for the establishment that, of course, previously a couple years ago, not so long ago, was arguing for climate change lockdowns. Now we have other politicians saying, hey, this is happening because people are too free, because people get to fly around, people get to travel too much, and they need to be locked down and punished and restricted and taxed more in order to make the weather gooder. Now, there's also a lot of criticism of individuals who are coming out and saying that there's possibilities of the government being able to control weather. I would equate that a lot of the people who are talking about the weather being gooder are a little bit crazier than the people talking about weather modification, which, as we know, is something that is a legitimate topic that I think deserves to be talked about. Have you guys looked into any of the kind of larger allegations? Because there is a very interesting conversation that the corporate media really doesn't like people having, that social media doesn't like people having, and that, of course, is the larger conversation about HARP, about weather modification. Where do you guys stand on that, and what do you think about the discussion happening right now?
Well, I've been looking into it, and I think that it's in the Bible. It's in Luke 21. I'll read it to you. It's verse 25. There will be signs. This is Jesus speaking about our time. There will be signs in the sun and the moon and the stars, and on the earth distress of nations with perplexity because of the roaring of the sea and of the waves, people fainting with fear and with foreboding of what is coming on the world, for the powers of the heavens will be shaken. That's the most interesting part of that is, up until now in ancient time, you cannot shake. Like shake is a human agent has to shake something, right? The idea that you can shake clouds, shake the heavens, is completely foreign and meaningless for the past 2,000 years that these words were penned. But now, it seems like it's coming to pass. So I think that we have scripture here that indicates that there's going to be some, geoengineering, some tinkering of our weather. And so I don't doubt, I can't prove it unless I was on the plane that seeded the cloud. I can't, I'm not there to prove it. But the Bible does indicate that man is going to tinker with weather, and it's really been an obsession of pagan religion from, ancient times.
No, you bring up some very important points. There's Lyndon B. Johnson literally declaring when he was the vice president of the United States in the 1960s. We played the clip yesterday, essentially saying if we could control the weather, we can control the world. And I think there is this kind of lust by a lot of central controllers, by a lot of powerful individuals that are working on advanced technology that we have no idea about, that do want to control the weather. And if they did, they wouldn't be announcing it. They wouldn't be broadcasting that they have these capabilities, since, of course, a lot of people don't want them to have these particular capabilities. Now, there's other people kind of extrapolating larger conspiracies here, people saying that this is kind of organized chaos, that this is a deliberate effort against kind of predominantly right-wing people in order to kind of destabilize them right before a major kind of election here in the United States. I'm not even going that far, but the reaction from the corporate media freaking out, the government freaking out. Joe Biden made some very interesting comments about this too, just a couple hours ago as well. It does highlight that they really don't like this conversation. And there's always going to be crazy people having different conversations online, but the fact that they're being paid attention to more than ever, saying, stop that, that's crazy, don't talk about that, makes me want to talk about it more. I don't know about you guys, but I want to discuss this further. And what you brought up with kind of biblical prophecies is very kind of fascinating, because a lot of, I think, of what alternative media has been exposing was the larger kind of evils behind the scenes of individuals that do want to subjugate, that do want to control. And if you look at the kind of larger actions of DARPA, the military industrial complex, they are working on just godlike powers that they want to give to themselves. That is very kind of anti-Christ-like. That is very anti-God-like. And it does kind of represent, to me, the forces of evil, in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly. Who wants to control other people but the Antichrist? He's anti-God, anti-human, and we're moving towards that, where you see more and more of these people unashamedly coming out and basically wanting to control the rest of us, want to control price, want to control where we live, want to make Tampa a 15-minute city. Have you heard that?
Yep. That was a Bill Gates plan as well that he kind of put forward there. That was literally discussed not so long ago. So that's a legitimate thing that you just brought up that is worth paying attention to. As there was even a specific drill going through the scenario not so long ago of a Category 5 hurricane directly hitting Tampa. As now we have this exact situation kind of unfolding. Now, again, it's downgraded it to Category 3, but we still don't know how this storm will act. As we saw with Hurricane Helene, a lot of unpredictable actions came from that in regions that people didn't expect to be hit. This is why we're hunkering down, and I'm triple preparing for everything that could potentially even come here at any moment and any time. But no, I think the push for 15-minute cities is also something that is self-evident when it comes to a lot of these kind of globalists trying to control individuals, subjugate them, and essentially put their will on everyone else.
Yeah, to me, I find it how funny it is. It's difficult to keep track of all of the different conspiracies per se that are out there over time. I don't find myself thinking about things like weather control, manipulation, like perhaps we did 10, 15 years ago when HARP was all the buzzword. I think when you come from a perspective like Pastor Steve and I, where you literally believe in God and you believe in demons, you believe in angels, and you believe in the devil and this whole archetype of good versus evil. Going back a couple of 3,000-4,000 years, all of the world was under one language and one tongue, and there was an incredible amount of technology and an incredible amount of power and influence and the capability to speak to the powers of the air, to speak to the spirits that are behind the scenes. And we know that today, in our worldview, where at least where I come from, we know that the powers and principalities that are behind the scenes manipulating mankind, they've been so successful in influencing our mind, teaching us lies and propaganda and defining good as evil and evil as good. So the likelihood that they would have such technology, people that I believe are pretending to be aliens, people who would masquerade as aliens on the earth are certainly capable of, weather manipulation.
Yeah, Tucker Carlson talked about interdimensional beings. Let's get into that conversation in a little bit because there's still so much news to cover, especially with the latest comments from Joe Biden, who said, quote, "We're controlling the weather." Now, I said LOL, actual quote. I was joking because he was kind of poking fun at this larger kind of notion and idea, criticizing specifically Congresswoman MTG with her tweet that says, absolutely, the U.S. government can control the weather. I think the capabilities are probably there. Again, we don't have the proof. We don't have empirical evidence suggesting and highlighting that it's been exactly used. But the conversation is fascinating and worth having, especially with Joe Biden saying this to the world just a couple moments ago at his small table in Washington, D.C.
Now the claims are getting even more bizarre. Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, a congresswoman of Georgia, is now saying the federal government is literally controlling the weather. We're controlling the weather. It's beyond ridiculous. It's got to stop. In moments like this, there are no red or blue states. There's one United States of America, where neighbors are helping neighbors. Volunteers and first responders are risking everything, including their own lives, to help their fellow Americans. State, local, and federal officials are standing side by side. Let me repeat, no one should make the American people question whether their governments will make sure that this is acting when it strikes. They'll be there. We will.
Good old Joe Biden again. Didn't really finish his sentence cohesively at all there, as of course he announced, you got to stop doing this immediately. I don't think so. Bill Gates literally invested in companies and carried out projects that were previously banned in Europe, but carried out here in San Francisco, when they were doing seed clouding experiments that specifically were there to block out the sun. These are real experiments that are being done without the consent of the governed, as individuals are just told about it afterwards. Now, imagine the experiments that they're doing that we are not told about afterwards, as the U.S. government has a long history of doing a lot of kind of very cruel and weird and wild scientific experiments on unsuspecting American citizens, at many times to the cost of the American citizens that usually have to pay the ultimate price for it with their health and their safety. You look at the Tuskegee experiments, MK Ultra experiments, the radiation experiments in St. Louis. There's a long list of experiments done on the American people. So Joe Biden telling me right now, stop with this conversation? No. We should start this conversation, and we should at least understand what's happening behind the scenes here and try to get some kind of larger purview here, because otherwise these people will be able to get away with a lot of the awful stuff that they kind of try to carry out against the general public. But I don't know if you guys looked at any of the kind of weird experiments that the U.S. government has done on citizens here, but there's a lot of them.
But the question is really, are they implementing this right now as a weapon? Because a lot of people can say, yes, this exists, and yes, Operation, was it Popeye?
Yes, Operation Popeye.
Okay, so that has happened, but are we using that right now for these events? Where is the proof of that? So it's kind of, I think that people want to know the facts, and I think that just because weather modification exists and those technologies exist, we still need to be able to bridge what kind of symptoms can we see in the skies? What kind of proof or validation can we give to people so that we aren't called conspiracy theorists? And that's kind of where I'm at this point.
What do you guys think? There's also a crazy CBS News article highlighting how there were scientific experiments specifically using lasers in order to modify specific clouds and weather patterns that CBS News even talked about and bragged about a couple months ago. So these are legitimate conversations, and the more that Joe Biden wants them to go away, the more I want to talk about them.
Well, the one that kind of convinced me was the Chinese satellites that were going over Maui. There were two of them that went on exactly at the time when the fires were triggered. These two satellites, you could track them. They were going across, and they say that's laser technology. Again, I've met some of my followers on YouTube. They've worked on government projects, and they tell me, yeah, definitely the government can start fires, using laser. One guy actually claimed to have worked on an airplane that modified weather, and they were experimenting on this. And then he said once they succeeded in proving what they can do, the government shut down the project. So he says he could never prove for sure what did they do with it, did they do anything with it. But these are just hearsay stuff that then you get coincidences like Maui, and you think, or Texas as well. It's just happening more and more, and they seem inexplicable apart from some kind of intentional technology.
Yeah,
I'm just worried that people saying this would be discredited due to the fact that we are just simply saying it exists, they're using it, and it's like, okay, but
how do we prove it?
You appear to be discredited if you can't provide any sources as to how that is actually happening with the current situation. That's kind of, like I said, that's kind of where I'm at about it.
No, I would agree. We all know from the research that we've done in the background that this is possible. We just
Correct.
don't know whether they're doing it now. We also do know that talking about these subject matters is all well and good, but there's not a single person in the world or the best spokesman or pundit on the planet that's going to tell you whether or not they're actually doing it. Every day that I've been trained, because I've been in this alternative news industry or whatever you call it field for 20 years, I've been trained that when I see a new quote unquote thing that's getting so much media attention or that's being put out there in the mainstream focus, I tend to look at it and think that they want us to communicate about this, that they're trying to govern the conversation so these safety nets where we talk about conspiracy, we're allowed to talk about these conspiracies, we just can't talk about that they're sacrificing children.
Yeah, we could definitely get into that. We talk about that a lot, but we probably will have to save that conversation for the next platform that we are specifically on. As of course, I'm still paying attention to all the videos coming out right now, and all the particular live streams coming out right now.
Wasn't it like during Barack Obama when they finally admitted, we were talking about chemtrails and contrails and all that for many years, but under Obama where they admitted global terraforming is taking place?
I believe so. I don't know the exact reference that you're kind of bringing up here, but I do believe that there was something like that. Kristen Megan, the government whistleblower, also gave us a pretty eye-opening interview about this particular subject. She's going to be visiting us very soon, and of course participating in this larger conversation, which I think can't happen fast enough. Steph, we have a bunch of super chats. Let's read some of them off from top to bottom, please.
Sure. All right. Well, we have the first one here by I'm Not Your Buddy Guy. Actually, there's another one. But I'm Not Your Buddy Guy says, it amazes me how people think weather manipulation is a conspiracy theory. Meanwhile, cloud seeding, which is weather manipulation, has been around since 1946. To think we haven't advanced past that is the conspiracy theory super chat. Is the conspiracy theory, excuse me. Yes, we know that it's been around. I can agree to that. And I'm glad that more and more people are beginning to acknowledge it, even though it is being considered a conspiracy theory in the news. It's bringing awareness to things that we've been talking about for years and years. And another tip in the Alex Jones was right jar. Mm-hmm. We have another one here from Clint's Sassy Prime. Saying, hola amigos, glad to see Clint living his best life. Something Clint and doggy style. Sorry, Pastor, for this crass statement.
Yeah, Clint's living his best life. He's not here. He was supposed to be here, but he's not here. So
we have another one. Trump's bombshells getting rid of nukes. FBI got to him. Sorry.
Read the super chat stuff.
I'm trying to. I think it's David Himes who says, if you ask Grok if Bill Gates invests in cloud seeding, you'll find out Grok is a conspiracy theorist. We also have Preston saying John 3:16. Would you care to enlighten us?
You know that one. Come on, Stephanie.
Oh, you guys are the experts in.
For God so loved.
Please enlighten us. So what is this John 3:16?
Go ahead, Pastor Steve. For God so loved the world that gave his only begotten Son. It's the most beloved scripture, and it's a precursor between a couple of verses later where it says that Jesus Christ, is there, but people don't want to come to the light because they love the darkness. So it's basically the most well-known verse in the entire world, that if you just read down a couple of verses later, you get the entire context. But yeah, that's John 3:16. Praise God. I am a big audio Bible fan, so what you always hear me doing is admitting of how lazy I am and how I don't actually read the Bible. I listen to the audio Bible. I've listened to the audio Bible thousands of times, and I recommend you do the same thing and start at the first chapter of the book of John, and you're going to find in 20 minutes you'll be at John chapter 3.
Keep going, Steph. We got a bunch.
Okay, we have Purple saying they also have ground stations for seeding. So we got a lot of people in our audience that know a lot about this geoengineering. We have another one from David Himes saying, oh, I've already read this one, excuse me. Okay, we got Mon Hoden saying, drop the taxes and the regulation, pump up the tariffs, and this will fix itself.
Statist. Keep going.
And we have, and that's it. We've read them all.
I don't think so. We got a bunch in there. But anyway, try to make sense of the chats. We'll continue on with all the larger kind of developments here, as we're also getting new videos from Naples, Florida. Right now, specifically highlighting the larger waves there now that are hitting the pier there, as of course it does appear that the storm is intensifying. It is starting to hit, and it is going to be an absolute major one. It looks like we also have another update about Lieutenant Dan from the Red-Headed Libertarian that just released this video saying, quote, I am shaking with absolute rage that the mayor of Tampa Bay would so viciously lie about Lieutenant Dan. Let's see what they say.
You remember Lieutenant Dan, the guy who's gone viral, who's in this sailboat. He's still here, Nicole. Everybody's worried about you.
Who's worried about it?
It's all over TikTok.
Everybody, across the country. I'm gonna go live in a minute.
The mayor in her press conference said that they came and got him and took him to a shelter, but it's so weird she said that because he is still in the boat. I mean, I just saw his hand sticking out like a couple minutes before this live shot.
I have a secured anchor point. I'm tied to the boat. If the tide goes up, I go up. As long as the water stays out of the boat, I'll be fine. And I'm the black sheep. I'm the one that does what I feel is right. And I don't care what anybody says or wants to do about it. I do what I think is right.
And that's why we
remember
live in
Lieutenant
America. And we have the ability to do all of this, as of course the mayor is saying that he was taken away. He wasn't. Should the government take him away, or should they allow him to live his life?
I'm guessing, Luke, that you think he should be able to do that.
I think America is a free country, and I think we have the right.
We love our hillbillies who are mentally ill.
Yeah.
Our mentally ill hillbillies are what this country was based on.
Exactly. If it wasn't for those guys, we wouldn't have America. So I think this is an issue.
No,
that
poor
is,
guy. I don't think he's doing that for vainglory. The guy's just, someone putting a camera in front of his face, and probably everything he says and does is hilarious.
Yeah, a lot of people are loving Lieutenant Dan now, and that's the conversation that is centered around.
I take back my former comments.
Okay. Well, I still think it's something that is a fascinating conversation that's happening right now that I think is absolutely worth talking about. As of course, it's also very interesting to note here that Donald Trump previously also suggested nuking hurricanes in order to stop them from hitting the United States. Yes, you heard that correctly. As today, Donald Trump was on the Flagrant podcast with Andrew Schultz, and they really had a very fascinating conversation. And Donald Trump said that he, of course, would be dropping some major bombshells here, specifically about the attempted taking of his life. We're going to be talking about that in a little bit. But more importantly, I think the biggest bombshell of this conversation is that Donald Trump talked about how he was close to a deal for getting rid of all nuclear weapons. Yes, you heard that correctly. Donald Trump is now saying that when he was president of the United States, he was working on a deal that would essentially get rid of all nuclear weapons in the world. Here's the clip that is going around very virally.
We were close to a deal for getting rid of nuclear weapons. It would be so good.
For all countries or just Russia?
We were talking about Russia, ourselves, and China.
Oh, wow.
And we would then bring everyone else into it. And
so you all
strongly.
You all would get rid of your nuclear capabilities?
Denuclearize, yes. We were going to get rid
totally
of
denuclearize.
nuclear because it's too powerful.
Yeah.
It's too much.
Yeah.
I watched the entire interview. That podcast has way too many advertisements. But outside of the advertisements, I thought this was the kind of biggest bombshell. And it does kind of highlight the nature of Donald Trump that a lot of people have always questioned, specifically when it comes to his foreign policy. But him trying to get rid of nuclear weapons is a major deal. This is something huge. This is something that, of course, are larger efforts to try to prevent the larger kind of nuclear annihilation that a lot of people kind of expect with the current foreign policy that we are on and the trajectory that we are on, specifically with the Biden and Harris administration. What do you make of Trump's comments here? Because this is big. I think out of all the comments he said, this was the biggest one.
I mean, from my perspective, it's a noble thing, but it's not gonna happen because the Bible already predicts. Zechariah 14, a nuclear exchange happens. Ezekiel 38:39, a nuclear cleanup happens. So it's a noble thing, but maybe what it suggests to me is that maybe they already have something so much more powerful than nuclear that they're able to get rid. You know, if the Russians were to say, we can get rid of nuclear, I would assume they have something worse than that.
Yeah, I mean, it's the thought that counts for me. And I'm like, because everyone now is talking about the potential of a nuclear war between Russia and the United States, about China potentially getting involved here. I think just symbolically, the countries coming together and saying, hey, at this moment, at this time, we are going to not do any of that. And the threat of that is going to, of course, be totally wiped out is major. It's huge. And to me, has kind of given me more faith for a potential Donald Trump presidency. Since, of course, a lot of people have questions about his diplomacy. A lot of people say that he's implementing a policy that is reckless. But if he's really working on these kind of deals behind the scenes, this is absolutely critically important in my book. And outside of religious kind of philosophy, geopolitically speaking, this would, I would think, bring the Earth closer to harmony and peace, and to take us away from this threat of nuclear annihilation. Now, I know you guys have your own kind of perception of everything that's going to happen or will happen, specifically with nuclear annihilation and the end times. But to me, these efforts deserve to be not just complimented, but promoted. There should be a bigger, there should be headline news everywhere. The fact that it's not just shows you how controlled the narrative is in this country, and how controlled it is by these sociopaths that wield these nuclear weapons and threaten the use of nuclear weapons all the frickin' time. This is a world that we're living in where the Russians are literally saying, we have nukes. We're not afraid to use them. They're preparing to use them. And this is something that I think if Donald Trump gets elected, I hope he works towards more, because it would bring way more peace to this world.
He should have gotten the Nobel Peace Prize for the Abraham Accords. Trying to bring peace between enemies in the Middle East, and what he's trying to do with nuclear power. Obviously, it deserves a Nobel Peace Prize. So we're not saying that's shouldn't be lauded. That's awesome. And yet another reason to vote for Donald Trump. But in the end, man is wicked, and every weapon that he's ever created will get used. It's already been used. It just hasn't been used on, the West.
Yeah.
Used on Japan.
Well, this would probably be very difficult to carry out, because the Chaicoms or the Ruskies or the Israelis are like, yeah, we got rid of them. Trust us. Right. And then there's a bunch of politicians who are going to be like, no, we're going to make sure we have some nuclear weapons. If there was a way to carry this out, it would be a very interesting, kind of fascinating process that we can only kind of speculate on. But if there are actual, legitimate efforts to bring in weapons inspectors, it's still very difficult to carry out a lot of these actions. But man, this is major. This is big news. This is what we decided to, of course, lead with, as this was a very kind of unscripted Donald Trump speaking from the cuff, speaking in totally unscripted ways. You look at the interviews Kamala's doing; they're totally canned. They're totally controlled. There's a lot of narratives. There's a lot of script reading. There's a lot of kind of disingenuous kind of facial expression and actions and statements that don't amount to anything. Donald Trump is literally like, hey, I'm trying to get rid of nuclear weapons in the world. That's major, man. And if
casual talk.
Yeah. During the casual conversation where they're literally talking about Baron Trump, getting all the ladies in New York City. So I thought the convecation was good. I just didn't like all the ads. No, he is in college. He's at NYU right now. So I believe he's, of course, that's what.
No premarital sex, Mr. Trump.
That's what Andrew Schultz brought up in the conversation. I don't know if you listened to the full podcast episode. Full of ads, which was distracting.
It was funny.
But other than that,
well, also, that's what you like about Trump. Trump's a real statesman. Any person that's seeking to bring up these subject matters, this is the definition of the opposite of the warmongers that we're surrounded by. And it's always nice when we get to appear into the, Trump's always has these catchphrases that he's constantly circulating. It's nice anytime we get a new soundbite or something new that expresses the ad hoc conversations, I'm sure, takes place all around him because he's a real human being and he's not a puppet.
What was it, Luke? Keep America great. CAG? What was it that Trump said? He's like, oh, yeah, we were thinking about the catchphrase, keep America great, or something like that. It sounded funny. But I felt like this, the interview that he did was really nice, and it was really off the script. You could tell that Trump was really wanting to make his points, and then the cast, the crew that he was speaking with on the podcast with, it was kind of funny to watch, like the dynamics between everyone, because they were interrupting him like a lot, and I thought that was really funny because I don't get to see often Trump in that sort of setting. Usually you feel like, oh, it's Trump. We can't interrupt him. We got to let him talk, And this was really refreshing to see how he does on such like an off the cuff kind of unscripted podcast. And I don't know how many more he's going to have like this. I feel like it's pretty interesting to see what if this is like the only one we're going to get like that.
Well, I think he's up in the polls, so he's not going to do a lot of them. But it was a totally different conversation than what you're used to, because a lot of people just let Trump speak. But the kind of interruptions allowed this kind of natural flow to kind of play out here. Now, Nobel Peace Prize, a lot of people in the comment sections are saying that it's a joke, especially after Barack Obama won it, and then literally extrajudiciously assassinated American citizens, including an American teenager. Henry Kissinger, I believe, also won the Nobel Peace Prize, so I wouldn't even give Trump that. Trump's record on his foreign policy is mixed. Let's be honest here. He had John Bolton in his corner. That was a bad decision. The people that he surrounded himself, especially who he selected to be the head of the CIA, especially with all these other individuals that were trying to assassinate Julian Assange, wasn't good. But I think his larger efforts trying to broker a peace deal with North Korea do exemplify what Donald Trump is talking about here. He did walk across the border, the first president ever to have Secret Service freak out and absolutely lose it, as he literally walked over and crossed over to North Korea. Those larger moves, those larger kind of symbolic gestures, and even though there might be bigger weapons than nuclear weapons, which there probably are, nuclear weapons are old, archaic weapons compared to the new advanced stuff that they have. Even though these larger symbolic gestures do amount to a lot of things that the corporate media and the military-industrial complex just do not want. So when it comes to Donald Trump, I think we have to criticize him when he does bad stuff, but I think he definitely turned the corner since his last kind of administration, and now is coming out and speaking out against a lot of the real issues that absolutely do matter to the average American more than ever.
I just hope they're doing the annual maintenance on these nuclear weapons.
They probably are. I don't know if they're doing them in Russia, but there's a lot of nuclear weapons in Russia.
Isaac was saying that every year, every single airplane is completely taken apart and put back together. Are they doing that with these nuclear weapons?
There's also very interesting stories about nuclear weapons going missing in the United States as well. So we have that scenario. So when it comes to denuclearization, I'm all for it. And I hope Donald Trump gets elected, and I hope he keeps pushing for this issue, because imagine a world where we no longer have nuclear weapons. That's a world that would be absolutely... I think awesome, absolutely incredible. Someone responded to me recently on Twitter about this specific subject with this particular photo, saying a vote for Trump is a vote for denuclearization, highlighting a kind of a 1970s hippie.
Nice.
Donald Trump here. As of course, if you remember, the hippies back in the heyday that were probably CIA prompted were calling for denuclearization. This is something that is mainly kind of a leftist rallying call, and to have Donald Trump issue these sentiments, major big deal, and this story should have been a lot bigger than it is, in my opinion. But of course, there's a lot of weapons that need to be sold, that need to be maintained, that your tax dollars need to pay for. As currently, right now, because of American foreign policy, we're paying for the missiles in the Middle East, and then we're paying for their destruction, which is not really the smartest of things to do, as the average American now is, of course, suffering financially, especially the American in the Carolinas that's dealing with a lot of really crazy situations with the previous Hurricane Helene that affected them ever so seriously. So this is. Do you guys have hopes for Donald Trump's, or do you guys share some skepticism as other people have had of him before, or do you guys think that he is the right man for the job?
I'm here. Left everything and came here because I believe that there's going to be a second administration of Donald Trump. I believe it was prophesied. I believe that it was. We'll use some word that it was lacking transparency, can we say, the last election. And he's going to come in. And I think my concern isn't that he's the right man at the right time. He's an agent of justice is what I call him. So he's not a moral man, perfectly moral. He's not a pastor, but he's an agent of justice that God is using. And my concern is that when he wins, the conservatives and the Christians will actually just, relax and celebrate again, because I think there will be jubilation when he goes in. But because we all relaxed last time, and not much happened, there needs to be so much more to happen in this second administration.
What are some of, I don't know if you want to get into it or can get into it, but what are some of the religious prophecies highlighting that Donald Trump will potentially win the next election?
Well, Kim Clement is one. Kim Clement and I were the first two to predict Trump's first win long before he was a Republican nominee. So we felt that from the Lord, and we said that publicly, and it happened. And then both of us believe that there's a second election of Donald Trump, or second administration. We just didn't know. None of us knew that it would be non-consecutive. It's really unusual. Kim said that when he comes in again, he will be spirit-filled. And that might tie into the assassination attempt, where he really needed to be humble. These 4 years, I pray, I hope that he has been discipled. He needs to know the Word of God for himself. He needs to know how to pray for himself. There's a lot of people praying, and that's great, but the man in the Oval Office needs to have his own relationship with the Lord. And that's what I think was missing if he had just gone in the second time. Because historically, if you study U.S. presidencies, they tend to do worse the second time in. Whether that's arrogance or just human nature, it tends to be that way. So I think it's a grace of God that he didn't go in immediately. But I don't know how far, when he got shot at, I heard right away Eric Trump asked one of my friends, said, "Tell me, are there any prophecies about this?" So that's a good indication. If you're looking for signs of faith from the Trump family, they were paying attention to things like that. And so my video on our YouTube channel, Discover Ministries, was sent to him, and I think he saw that. Now, I wasn't the one that prophesied that. I had a friend of mine there was a round table, much like today, where we're just talking and bantering, and we just say, let's talk about prophecy. Let's talk about what's coming for the future of America. And about 11 minutes into it, suddenly there was this prophecy where Brandon said, he saw that Trump would get hit in the right ear. He'd fall down, blood would be running down his face, and then he'd get back up. I mean, that was uploaded fully 4 months before it happened. So I had several atheists, not to exaggerate, but really several atheists write in and said, I thought there was no proof of God. There's no evidence of God. And he said, one guy says, now I doubt my atheism.
Yeah. And if there ever is going to be an action that humbles someone, it is them coming very close to losing their lives. It is, as some people would describe, a spiritual experience. There's a lot of people who describe, dying and coming back and having larger kind of religious beliefs as well. I want to get into all of that because there's a lot of significance to this because you guys were calling it out. Independent media was calling it out before it happened as well. Alex Jones, myself, Tim Pool, we were all saying, the next thing that's going to happen is that they are going to try to take his life. So we were saying that way before it happened. The prophecy aspect of it is very fascinating. I want to delve into a lot more of that, and let's give the audience greater detail about that. We're going to save this conversation for, of course, the next platform, which is going to be on thebestpoliticalshow.com. There's a lot of things that we can't discuss here on YouTube, so we're just going to have them on another particular platform as we're going to officially kind of move over towards a free speech platform, thebestpoliticalshow.com, and of course continue it there. Pastor Steve, where can people, before we move over here, before we switch over from YouTube to this other platform, where can people find out more information about your videos and the work that you do?
Yep, so the hub is discoverchurch.online. We're the world's first online church. We did it long before COVID. We claim to be the first church to ever accept crypto for tithes and offerings. So that's discoverchurch.online. From there, you can find the YouTube Discover Ministries. You can find our books. Our latest book's called Get Prayers Answered, and one of it is praying against assassinations. Another one is praying against storms and hurricanes. So we're using all of that. These are all prayers that have been answered. They're on Amazon. 30 years of prayers that have been answered. So they're just helpful models for people. If you go to discoverchurch.online, you should be able to find all of those things.
Awesome. Matt, where can people find out more information about you?
YouTube and Rumble, Since Jesus, all the other platforms, Since_Jesus, and killingthegame.com.
Steph, we have more super chats here. I don't know if you're able to get the ones we didn't read yet, but
Sure, yeah.
let's get through them.
Okay, we have 5TR1K3 saying, ask Pastor what would he recommend people do if they're in the storm right now and watching?
It's a good question.
Yeah, okay, so let's apply it. So I would just go, they're alphabetical, there's about 60 different topics, and get prayers answered. So let's go to this one, protection, and one of it just says right there, protection from storms. There's protection from demons. You're mentioning demons. Famine is, by the way, famine is what's coming next. So after the wars, there'll be famine.
Oh, great.
Terrorism. Well, it's not going to be, it's going to be bad, but it's not going to be the tribulation yet. These are pre-tribulation signs.
We're going to be way numbed out before that happens.
We'll
feel nothing.
We're not going to care.
we should care more. Yeah, hopefully it wakes up some people. But this is what I would do. So protection from storms. My house is right in the center of the path according to the current projection. Like it's right there.
General Flynn is too as well.
Exactly.
He was just on this show a couple of days ago. Roger Stone just tweeted that people need to pray for him and his home as well, because he also said that he's also in the trajectory of the storm on as well. So
he's practically my neighbor. So you're very close to each other. And yeah, so what I did was I got all the kids and I said, let's pray together. And most Christians would know Psalm 91. So that's a good one to use. That's fine. Use Psalm 91. And I said, kids, let's pray this. And so we have examples in the Bible where we have protection from this. Mark chapter 4, verse 39. And Jesus arose and he rebuked the wind and he said to the sea, peace, be still. And the wind ceased and there was a great calm. But he said to them, why are you so fearful? How is it that you have no faith? And in case people read this and they say, well, of course Jesus can do it, but we have no way of doing anything like that. I also quote right there in the protection chapter, John 14:12, he said, most assuredly, I say to you, he who believes in me, the works that I do, he will do also. And greater works than these he will do because I go to my Father. So I got the kids to read that and then we prayed that together. And that's what I would recommend. Just do that with your family and you're going to see protection. I remember when I was in Tulsa, I was in Tulsa when there was terrible hurricanes, the fastest tornado, the biggest tornado that came through from Oklahoma City to Tulsa. I was there for that one. And we rebuked that and not a shingle off of our roof, came off. All the churches there, I mean, it was a weird thing because if you look back at that report, it literally hit a wall when it got to Tulsa and it just stopped. It just died. It was very destructive. But many, many people prayed and learned how to pray protection at that time. And another time I looked up, a tornado was forming right above my head when I was in Broken Arrow. And this is Oklahoma. And I just used the same scriptures. There's many other scriptures, but I used that one. And I just said, peace be still. I rebuke that. You're not going to come and destroy me. And I just saw this thing very eerily, like it's looking at me or something. And it just died away. It just stopped and died. So I know a lot of people would make fun of that and say, oh, that's not possible. But my Jesus did it, and he said the works that he did, I will do also. So that includes evangelism, that includes healing, but obviously it includes rebuking these very wicked storms.
And when it happens to you, because you just accounted a first-person account, we understand this always sounds crazy. Rebuking a storm sounds crazy. Yeah. But when you've done it, and all of a sudden the weather clears up, that's sort of the faith of what we're writing on, what's written, but we also have witnesses. Our Facebook feeds, our Instagram feeds, we might seem a little bit crazy to you, but we're inundated. All of our friends, all our family, everyone that we know practices these biblical techniques praying against the storm.
Yeah. Yeah. This is time for your faith to be real. Your faith is going to get tested. Other people will get scared, but we're trying to tell you, if you have a genuine faith, a genuine relationship with the Lord through Jesus Christ, you should not be afraid.
Steph, keep going.
Bad Joke 69 saying, Matthew, you look tense. Is it because you cannot play pickleball in a Cat 5 hurricane?
I haven't played pickleball in about 10 days, and I've been doing incredible amounts of manual labor. This came from my storage facility where I immediately just started pouring sweat. So if I seem tense, it's just because I want to talk about Jesus and we're talking about controlling the weather.
All right, we got the John Black saying, I don't think we'll ever have a WTC 7 for Hurricane Gate.
Yeah, sadly, I don't think we will. But there are some government whistleblowers that might come forward. Again, Kristen Megan did come forward with, a lot of the allegations that she came forward with. She's suing the federal government with RFK Jr. right now. So there are some people that will eventually do the right thing within the system, I think. And I have a lot of belief in those individuals that are willing to risk it all to tell the American people the truth. Keep going.
We also have Switzerland Play IT saying, I wish Sophia had the energy for me like a hurricane.
We wish you luck, Switzerland Play. And just double check, go up and make sure we read all of them, because there's a bunch of them that I think we didn't read as well that I think our producer just kind of spammed in there. But we're going to go over to the next platform, the free speech platform that currently we are on the front page of. Or you could just go to thebestpoliticalshow.com. In about 30 minutes, we are going to be going to members of LukeUnfiltered.com. Don't forget to get the supplements on wearechange.shop. Your support more important than ever as we officially leave this platform, and we are going to have more serious discussions about prophecy, Donald Trump, P. Diddy, demons, interdimensional creatures,